Let me record.
Pussy. Oh.
Is that your, this is your warming up line?
yeah, that's my warming up noise.
Okay.
Pussy. Welcome to Team Hurricane. I'm Tom.
And I'm Daryl. So that's, now you know the secret vocal warm-ups that Tom does before every show. He is an author,
reading.
folks. Yes. So if you ever catch him out at the speaking circuit, be prepared for that.
If you're in the green room with me ahead of my appearance.
He also does this while wearing bathing suit trunks. He's wearing everything else, like a suit or whatever, and your hoodie, but you always have to rehearse it in your bathing
in my
suits.
swim trunks. Yeah. They're not even like they're like board shorts from the mid 2000s. So they like hang down to my
This
calves.
is like just Billabong in big bold letters.
Oh, the 90s are alive and well, kids. Don't let anybody tell you they're not.
They are. Where are they alive now? I think that for a while they were alive in Portland, right? Like, wasn't that like the whole thing about Portlandia as the dream of the 90s was alive there?
Yeah. I saw an episode. Sorry, I'm getting texts. I'm just so popular.
He's a popular man.
Honestly, the only people who text you are you and Sergio, or text me are you and Sergio, and then Becca if I'm not home or if we're on different floors of the house.
Sure. Instant communication.
Yeah, well, I prefer it to getting yelled at, honestly. Yelling always makes me a little anxious.
It frightens me, Like, I don't know what's about to happen.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Sometimes it's good stuff, right? Like, you're like, oh my God, we have a cherry pie. And it's like, oh my God,
It's
yes!
Friday!
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's really good things. But then sometimes it's like, I just cut my fucking hand off. And you're like, ah!
You couldn't have texted this?
Yeah. And I mean, no. I think is really the answer in that situation. Because she would have been losing a lot of blood.
Yeah, in that case, like, that's absolutely the right move. If you cut off a digit, a limb, any extremity,
the right call is to yell.
Anything short of that is a text.
Right, and that is a Team Hurricane PSA on when it is appropriate to yell and when it is not.
Across the house.
Right, exactly. Now we could go on and on about when it's appropriate to yell in the grocery store, for instance, and I would say it's almost never appropriate to yell in the grocery store, unless if a shelf falls over, you got to yell to warn people.
Yeah, watch out.
Mm-hmm.
Those Twinkies are falling on you.
Right, and like if it's Twinkies, that's one thing, right? But if it's like a 95-year-old lady, you don't want a box of Twinkies to fall on her.
Mm-mm.
You can fall on me.
Still got sharp corners.
Whatever. Yeah, that's true. You might lose an eye. Wouldn't that be crazy to lose an eye to a box of Twinkies?
To a box of Twinkies in a Piggly Wiggly accident.
Man, like, I wonder if there's anyone in America that can say that happened to them or someone they know. Like someone in like Jackson, Mississippi's like, well, that happened to my great grandmother, Piggly Wiggly in Jackson, before it closed down.
I mean, just law of averages, it has to have happened to somebody, right? Or some
once.
Variation on that. Yeah.
I would think yes, there would that would have happened. So if that happened to you or anyone you know, please let us know.
So speaking of yelling, so the reason I'm not big into yelling is because in my house it was very discouraged, and if somebody was yelling, it meant you were in big trouble. What about you? When you were, but like my in-laws, they're just. That's just how they, talk. Like that, it's not aggressive or anything. It's just loud, What was it like in your childhood home? Were you guys yellers?
It was like early on, it was like yelling was like, oh my God, like it's the end of the world. Like that shit, like the fucking hammer's coming down, right? But like, and I think honestly, because of that, as I grew older, I was like, no, I'm yelling back now. Like, there was a lot of contention between me and my dad whenever we were when I was a teenager, because like basically like what that had shown me, like through him yelling, basically was me being like, like I'm old enough now to yell back. I have a voice now, and I'm gonna use it. And, as a parent, even now, like to my children, I see that happening to me. But, I also try to be conscious of the fact that, like, they're people, man. They're like turning into people, and like you kind of have to let them express themselves.
Yeah.
There's obviously a line, clearly, like we're talking about, like when is it appropriate to yell when is it appropriate to yell anywhere, I guess. But
Right. Yeah, we could spend the rest of the show. In fact, I think we should, talking about different places and when it's appropriate to yell and when it's not.
the one where they talked about when it's appropriate to yell or not.
Well, see, in the house where I live now, the yelling isn't even just about being in trouble. It's just like, we're doing what now? Just like, instead of just
Yeah.
going into the room, it's just shouting across the house.
I would
like
say now my house is like that.
Yeah, and that's all good natured. That doesn't. I'm not taking into account when there's like an actual fight happening. Because
Sure.
in high school I did my share of yelling. At my mom, less so than my dad because my dad didn't live with us. But yeah, I definitely I raised the decibel level of our home.
Yeah.
I think
yeah, I was about to say, I think that's just part of growing up, though. One of the things that I've always, like, at least for me, and this is just me, I don't know how everyone else, grew up, but as I got older, I'd say, like, obviously from the age of 1, but really from the age of, like, 10 or so, I started to, like, push my own boundaries. Like, how late can I stay up?
Right.
What can I do this thing? Can I do this thing? Like, for me, it was just like, okay, I did it. I know what that's like now. And I just felt like independently, I was coming to that conclusion on my own, and it felt like a growth thing. At least for me, it did. And I feel like for my oldest daughter, it is for her. So because she talks about pulling all-nighters. That's what the kids call it now. You stay up all night. They pulled an all-nighter. And I was like, what? You were studying? And she was like, no. But I was just like, okay, like, I get it. I wasn't like, oh my God, go to bed. I was just like, yeah, I get it.
She's 12, right?
She's 13.
13. Yeah, I think that was the summer where I first started, like, trying to stay up all night and then stay up the next day. I wouldn't want to go to bed, and then suddenly the sun would be up and I'd be like, oh shit. But then the problem for me was actually getting through the rest of the day at that point, because what would usually happen is around noon I would just crash, and that would be it.
I think I wonder what it's like for kids, because for me, like, I would, like, when I was 13 or 14, and that's when I really stayed up all night, right? Like, I didn't, as we got older into high school, sure, like, I stayed up pretty late, and I'm sure there were plenty of times where we played video games all night, but, like, normally I was only staying up till, like, 1 or 2. I wasn't staying up till, like, the sun came up. But when I was 13 or 14, like, those 2 summers in particular felt like, and I think this is going to really date me, like, I think that was 95 and 96, like summers of 95 and summers of 96. I was watching MTV all night. I was talking to my friends. Like, I was watching fucking videos that we rented from Blockbuster, or videos that were on, or movies that were on cable. And it just felt like, becoming a person, like, in the world.
Well, and AOL was starting to be a thing. We had that. So, like, I spent a lot of time on Star Wars message boards on AOL.
Were they as vicious back then, too? I wasn't really in, like, the subculture that much. I mean, I watched it and went to the shows, but, like toy shows, but.
I don't think so. I think it's gotten a lot more toxic. Granted, I mostly hung out in the forums where they talked about the books, so you're dealing with readers to begin with who tend to be more sympathetic, empathetic people, and most of them were actually women. Actually, like that, as I remember it, I was one of the few guys in there talking about, like, Mara Jade or Jason Solo or whatever.
You're like, listen, Jason Solo would never become a Sith Lord. I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
It'll never happen. And then 10 years later,
That's a deep cut for all you Star Wars fans. That's some Legends canon for you.
But yeah, I would stay up all night, just doing that, or playing not Super Street Fighter, just regular Street Fighter 2 on my Sega Genesis. Like, I would just do tournament mode and just play and play and play.
I think like those are the years where you, at least again for me, if this is different for everyone else, please let me know. They just that you just kind of start to like figure out like your place in the world, and like clearly like who I was at 13 and who I am at 37 is completely different. I'm a fucking gardener now. 15-year-old me or 13-year-old me would have been like, what? You're doing what? And I'm like, listen, you little punk, you can be free if you can grow your own food.
Trying to radicalize the
Oh my god, if I could,
high schooler.
if I could have, like, here's the thing, like, I would say, like, where I came from, I have been pretty radicalized as far as like my political beliefs, but I would that was even like 13 to 14-year-old me was starting to figure out that part of me as well. Like just watching like SNL at night, I'd be like, a topical social issue, like, and then I'd watch the news and be like, I see, like, you know. I was constantly trying to like figure out things and like put them together and like make them work.
I was wondering what the next Star Wars movie would be like.
Sure, I thought about that too, a lot actually. Actually, I didn't because I didn't know for a long time because I didn't have the internet till like high school. I mean, I did once I got the internet. Then I was like, "What's the next Star Wars movie gonna be?" And then I pretty much read everything about it before the movie. And then when it happened, I was like, "Oh wow, that wasn't as cool as I thought it was gonna
be." Yeah, it's like you're reading stuff and you're like, "It's probably gonna be better than it sounds."
Right.
No.
And then I never did that again for any Star Wars movie because I knew that if I did that, I would ruin it for myself again. And I've watched Episode 1 again, and it's not good by any means, but it's not like it's not.
I don't think it's
worst. I think
it's not the worst Star Wars movie. Yeah, Attack of the Clones is objectively worse. I think it got a pass when it came out because it had lots of lightsabers.
It was lightsabers.
And
lightsaber
Yoda.
City.
Yeah. Like we'd never seen that many lightsabers, like that whole war scene. But when you actually watch the movie,
it's terrible.
It's plotting, like the dialogue, you know, in The Phantom Menace, there's a lot of bad dialogue, but each line kind of connects to the next, you know, their actual conversations. And Attack of the Clones, it really does feel like they cut together something where like people are just talking and the lines don't really connect. In some scenes, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Especially like that scene. I feel like the scene when Count Dooku comes in, you know, and he's got Obi-Wan in those like force field chains. Like there's some lines in there where I'm like, what? You know, I don't even know what's going on. And like the movie like has this murder plot that never goes anywhere, it gets resolved, and that whole Sifo-Dyas thing.
It's not good. It's just not good.
No. No. And it's slow. It's very
oh my
slow.
God, it's so slow. It's slower than the Phantom Menace, which is in itself pretty slow.
Yeah.
But I have been watching the Clone Wars, like, you know, I've been talking about it a little bit, but I've watched it a lot lately. I'm like on season 3, although I'm watching it in chronological order. So like I got to jump back and forth. Like,
so you started in season 3.
I did. You're totally right. I did. But like I'm like in season 3 is like what I'm like kind of like, you know. I just watched like my first like big chunk of season 3, like 3 episodes. I'm like, but then the next episode I got to watch is back in season 1. So, but I gotta say, like this show for me is some of the best Star Wars stuff out there because like it's clearly for children, but it's like fun and it expands the universe. I think in a fun way.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't always like work because it's still kind of like. The dialogue is kind of corny. Like Obi-Wan is actually a very corny character.
Yeah, but it's kind of fun.
It is. I agree completely. But like, I like it. Like I'm having a good time watching like Clone Wars. And my wife is like, I'm gonna go do something. I'm like, great, I can watch Clone Wars.
Clone Wars, fuck yeah. Yeah, I'm in season 4 right now. It's been a couple months since I watched any. The episodes where I always seem to stall out are ones that are Jar Jar specific.
Mm-hmm.
Or ones that are about the droids, that specifically R2 and 3PO.
I just watched one of those and I was like, I don't really care about this.
Yeah, I was like, this is so lame.
Like 3PO is trying to like throw a party and I'm just like, okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I get it, but it's nice to see them interact, I guess, though, because they're still bickering like they always do. But like, you know, they like each other, and So that's fun, and I like to see that sort of stuff. But like in the episode I just watched before that, fucking Greedo was